may have heard that Australia is sometimes called the lucky country. This is referring to our abundant natural resources that we have relied heavily on economically. But is that a good thing? Absolutely not. For a developed country, Australia's economy is severely lacking in diversification. In fact, we have a less diversified economy than nations like Guatemala, Jamaica, and Kazakhstan. My name is Lachlan Mingaars, and today on For the People Australia, we'll be talking about how Australia came to be so reliant on mining and the effects it has on the working class. First off, what does diversification actually mean in an economy? A diversified economy means the economy doesn't rely on one or few industries, and instead produces and earns income from a wide range of different sectors, products, and skills. Australia's economy is one of the least diversified in the modern world. Last financial year, mining export revenue was over $400 billion, a 61% share of all exports. This means nearly 2/3 of everything we sent overseas came from underneath our soil. You might be asking, why isn't this a good thing? Australia has suffered from something called Dutch disease. Dutch disease is an economic theory that explains how a boom in one sector, usually mining, harms other sectors of the economy. This happens because strong demand for natural resources pushes the currency up in value. In Australia's case, a strong dollar means Australian exports are more expensive for the rest of the world, which harms industries outside of mining. Dutch disease also explains the shift of capital and labour into the booming sector. Mining is capital intensive, so investment flows into resource extraction and away from other industries. Mining employs relatively few people, so the wealth created isn't reinvested into job creating industries. Instead, it flows into assets like housing, which pushes prices up without increasing productivity. That's great if you own a house, devastating if you don't. Australia felt the effects of Dutch disease most during the late 2000s to early 2010s. During this time, the Australian dollar surged in value, on parity with the US dollar and at times even above it. Our mining sector prospered, but our domestic manufacturing and other important industries were left behind. A heavy reliance on natural resource exports also makes the Australian economy vulnerable to things out of its control, such as global price shifts. If there's a sudden global event, like a war or a trade dispute, prices of minerals can rise and fall. This instability gives the government little warning, and if prices drop, the national income and the economy overall suffers. Concentrated exports also gives foreign nations far more influence in trade. For example, our trade with China. Our heavy reliance on them gives China significant political and economic influence over Australia. We don't set the prices. Our economic prosperity partly relies on the health of China's property sector and their construction activity. If China suddenly decided to source some of their minerals elsewhere, our export income declines sharply. Our heavy reliance on natural resource exports undermines our national sovereignty and hands foreign nations control over our economic success. It also gives Australia less bargaining power on the world stage. So what does this mean for the working class? In a diversified economy, workers benefit. When firms compete for labour, productivity is spread out across many different sectors and skills build on each other over time, helping workers advance through their careers. But in Australia today, productivity gains are mostly concentrated in mining, while the rest of the workforce sees little improvement in wages or job quality. So you might see on the news that Australia's economy is strong and growing and GDP is at an all-time high. But these are just numbers. The working class do not reap the benefits in their everyday lives, and their median wages barely move. This is why many economists describe Australia as a two-tier economy. Australia has effectively split into Tier 1, the resource and asset economy, which includes industries such as mining, finance, and property development, and Tier 2, which are the labour-intensive services. They include hospitality, retail work, aged care, and warehousing. Tier 2 has low wages, low margins, and low bargaining power. Dependence on natural resources pulls policy attention and capital upward, not outward. In other words, our economic model rewards ownership over work, and that's why the divide keeps growing. Australia didn't just benefit from natural resources, it built its whole economy around them. When mining dominates exports, it pulls investment, policy, and capital away from job-creating industries into extraction. While other sectors struggle, wage growth stagnates and competition for labour falls. We're told mining makes Australia rich, but wealth that doesn't turn into secure jobs, rising wages and lasting industry doesn't strengthen Australia, it concentrates power. An economy built around mining narrows opportunity. It prioritises short-term profits over long-term jobs and rewards ownership over work. Mining should have been a foundation, a way to fund new industries, build domestic production, and create secure, high-quality jobs. Instead, it became the centre of the economy, and everything else was left behind. This isn't anti-mining. Mining matters, but no advanced country can build a secure, independent future by digging things up out of the ground and assuming the benefits will trickle down. A country this rich in minerals should be rich in opportunity, economic independence, and productive work. But until mining wealth is used to build an economy that works for Australians, not just export raw materials, Australia will forever be a country that looks rich on paper, but leaves the working class behind.